Morality. Most of us believe in morality. We believe it's a real thing. We think that some things are good and some things are bad. We think that some things are right and some things are wrong. We believe that every single person should be treated with dignity and respect and fairness. We hold it to be self-evident that all people were created equal. At the foundation of the morality that we believe in and that we're grasping for is the belief that all people are equally valuable. But then that raises a question. For all people to be equally valuable, there has to be something which is equally true of every single person. What is it? What is the thing that is equally true of every single one of us and that cannot change and that therefore can ground the equal value of every single person, which is at the foundation of any plausible morality? It is surprisingly difficult to answer that question because all of our natural endowments are distributed along a spectrum. Some people are less intelligent than others, less happy, less wealthy, and less healthy. Some people are less useful for society, less good-looking, less capable of passing on their genes. And all of these things, they all change over time. So what is equally true of every single one of us and completely unchanging? Only one thing: the love of God. And not just any God. There are a variety of gods out there that say, I will love you if you're good enough, or I will love you if you believe in me. No, I'm talking about the extravagant, unconditional, no ifs love of the Christian God, which is for every single person and which cannot be earned and cannot be lost. Christians call it grace. It's my favorite word. It means unmerited love. The philosopher Robert Adams puts it this way. He says, grace is a disposition to love which is not dependent on the merit of the person loved. A gracious person sees what is valuable in the person he loves and does not worry about whether it is more or less valuable than what could be found in someone else he might have loved. Early on in our dating relationship, my wife Jo, at one point, she was a bit blinded by love, and she turned to me and she said, Vince, I don't deserve you. And I looked at her and I said, no, you don't. Bad move. Not recommended. Thankfully, I didn't start there. I said, no, you don't. And I don't deserve you either. Isn't it wonderful? How could we ever deserve another person as our very own? Surely that's beyond what any one of us could ever deserve. Love at its best is not about what we earn or merit or deserve. It's about grace. And I like that type of love. It's the type of love that means you don't always need to be looking over your shoulder or around the corner wondering if someone more worthy of love than you is going to come along. It's a love that's secure, and therefore it's a love that you can stop competing for and just enjoy. I wonder what the honest answer of your heart is to that question. Do you compete for love, or do you enjoy it? What if before the foundation of the world, God loved every single one of us with grace, with love that is a gift, with love that cannot be lost, with love that is exactly the same on your best day and on your very worst day? With the love of a parent staring down on a newborn child. That child can't do anything to earn the parent's love, and yet the love could not be more extravagant. The question, why do you love your child? It doesn't even make sense to the parent. What do you mean, why do I love my child? That's my child. I created him. He's in my image. He has my nose. The love of a parent who sees a son far off on the horizon, a son who took the family's money and went off and spent it on everything you're not supposed to spend it on, a son who did everything wrong, and yet the father sees that son while he's still far off And he just takes off running like an embarrassing fool, and he runs to the son, and he throws himself on his son, and he kisses him, and he hugs him, and he gives him his robe. He gives him the family ring. He gives him sandals on his feet, and he yells back to the family and says, "Kill the best animal. We're throwing the biggest party you've ever seen because this son of mine was lost, and now he's found." This is love that's not supposed to be earned. This is a love that is simply supposed to be returned. What if God loves us like that? That you are loved by God is the one and only thing about you that could never change. That is why it gives you your identity. And that is why it is the only truth that can found the equal value of every single person, which is at the foundation of any plausible morality. Meaning. A while back, I was on a university campus in Chicago, and on the way into the event, we had these whiteboards with different questions, and one of our questions was, what is the meaning of life? And across the top, we had different options: personal success, to find love, no meaning, to pass on your genes, to have power and influence, to achieve your goals. And students would confidently walk up to this board, and they would take the marker, and then they would stand there, and they would stare at it, sometimes for minutes on end, just paralyzed. Many of them had no idea how to answer that question. And I could hear the Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl in my head. People have enough to live by, but nothing to live for. They have the means, but no meaning. People have enough to live by, but nothing to live for. They have the means, but no meaning. What is the meaning of life? What does it mean for something to have meaning? Does this collection of letters have meaning? Well, it depends on whether someone put these letters side by side intentionally in order to communicate something, or whether it's just a random collection of letters. Meaning relies on intelligence and intentionality. My baby niece Camille's first word was "dada," and my brother was so proud. And then I walked into the room, and she said, "Dad, dad, dad, dad." And then the cat walked into the room, and she said, "Dad, dad, dad, dad." And then a cockroach walked into the room, and she said, "Dad, dad, dad, dad." And then my brother was no longer proud. Randomness is the enemy of meaning. Even if something appears to have meaning, it might not if it's not intentional. Even if something looks meaningful, it is only actually meaningful if it is the result of the intention of an intelligent being. Was our universe intended? Over the last 35 years, what's called the Finetuning argument has strongly suggested that it was. Here's how. The universe we live in could have taken many different forms. And scientists have approached a consensus, not just Christian scientists, but scientists in general, that there are dozens of fundamental features of the universe that needed to be precisely the way they are for life to be possible. Not just life as we know it, not just life on the planet Earth, but any form of life anywhere in the universe. Take just one example. The explosive force of the initial expansion of the universe for life to be possible had to be within 1 part in 10 to the 60th of what it actually was. In other words, the percentage difference you could have while still accommodating life is a 0 followed by a period, followed by 57 zeros, followed by a 1. If the initial expansion had been just the slightest bit weaker, gravity would have made the universe collapse back in on itself almost immediately, far too quickly for any form of life to develop. If the initial expansion had been just the slightest bit stronger, particles would have dispersed literally into thin air. They would have dispersed so quickly and wound up so far from each other that all we could have got would have been cold, simple molecules, nothing like the sort of complex chemistry required for any form of life. Sir Roger Penrose, Emeritus professor at Oxford, one of the world's leading mathematical physicists. He estimates that the overall difference you could have is 1 part in 10 raised to the power of 10, raised in turn again to the power of 123. I would write that out as a percentage, but even if I could change all of the matter in the universe into paper, I would still have far too little paper to print the required number of zeros. In fact, I would need more zeros than there are particles in the universe. Sir Fred Hoyle, the late Cambridge astronomer, one of the 20th century's most significant scientific thinkers, he compared the random emergence of even the simplest cell to a tornado blowing through a junkyard and just happening by chance to produce a perfect Boeing 747 airplane. These are the sorts of odds we're talking about. What explains this incredible precision in the universe? Imagine that by this point in the talk, you are unbearably bored. Hard to imagine, I know. You're unbearably bored, and so you break out a deck of cards. You start playing poker with the person sitting next to you. And in the first 12 rounds, they get 12 straight royal flushes. What should you think? How dare you insult your neighbor like that? Yes, of course, they're cheating. Why? Because even if the person sitting next to you is a very honest person, it's so incredibly unlikely to get 12 straight royal flushes just by chance that someone must be messing with the cards. Even if you thought there was only a 1% chance that the person sitting next to you would cheat, if you saw them get dozens upon dozens upon dozens of royal flushes, one after another, you would have no choice but to conclude that someone was carefully arranging the cards. Scientists tell us this is exactly what's going on in our universe. One royal flush after another. Could it be that the evidence warrants the same conclusion? Someone got their hands on the cards and carefully arranged the system. Someone designed the universe. The Bible says that you are a word, not just a random collection of genetic letters. More than that, it actually says that you're a poem. It uses the Greek word poema. That word is used for only 2 things in the Bible, to describe the natural world and then to describe you and me. Are you a random collection of genetic letters, or are you a poem that was intentionally and carefully crafted by God Himself? Are you a sestina? That is the question behind the question of the meaning of life. Destiny. Where are we headed? Are we headed anywhere? I saw a commercial a while back. It depicted a baby being born, and then over the next 30 seconds, it fast-forwarded through the entirety of this child's life while the baby was flying through the air. So the baby was born, and then as it was flying through the air, it was getting older and older and became an adolescent, and then an adult, and then an old man, and then became hunched over in gray, and at the end of the commercial, crashed down into a grave, dead. And then the screen went black, and words appeared across the screen. And they said, "Life is short. Play more Xbox." And it was really funny. And it was also devastating. I laughed, and then I reflected on it. And I thought to myself, really? Is that the best we've got? My cousin Charles died a few years ago. He went to dinner with my Aunt Regina. He started choking on a piece of chicken. A minute later, he stopped breathing, and that was it. Play more Xbox? Really? Is that the best we have to offer my Aunt Regina in the face of that loss? Life is short, and it lacks meaning, and it's headed nowhere, so just nothing you could do about it? Just try to distract yourself and not think about it and spend more time on Facebook and Xbox? Is that really the best that we have? I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? A dream within a dream. Edgar Allan Poe. What is our destiny? Will our dreams amount to anything, or will they all be swept away? For one of my birthdays when I was a little kid, I must have been about 8, I asked my dad to build me some steps up this massive tree that we had in the backyard. And I made a deal with him that every year on my birthday, we could add a few steps to the tree. And I thought it was so cool. I can remember thinking that many years from then, I'd be able to climb up hundreds of feet and look out over the entire neighborhood. When I was a child, I had these extraordinary dreams for the things I would do, for the person I would become. I had this great sense of destiny. Nothing seemed out of reach. What were your dreams for your life when you were a child? What were they 10 years ago? How about 5 years ago? What are they today? And how have they changed? Many people start out with extraordinary dreams, but by the time they are adults, they have ceased to dream like children. The harsh realities and disappointments of life chip away and chip away and chip away at childhood idealism until all that's left is adult cynicism. Albert Camus likened life to the myth of Sisyphus, condemned to roll a large stone up a hill over and over. He would roll that stone up the hill and it would roll back down. And then he would roll that stone up the hill again only to watch it roll back down once more. He worked so hard and never got anywhere. Camus called it never-ending defeat. Maybe some of us can relate. Life is short, and it lacks meaning, and it's headed nowhere. So just play more Xbox. Jesus Christ offers a better hope. About 2 years ago, I had a student named Ariel. She was diagnosed with a rare medical condition that meant her brain was prone to bleeding more than others. And she was told that she would probably have only a couple years left to live. And shortly after that, she told me that she found herself looking in the mirror, and she was testing the limited mobility she had on her right side. And the questions that popped into her mind were, is this the healthiest I'm ever going to be? Is this the strongest I'm ever going to be? Is this the prettiest I'm ever going to be? And then she told me of the amazing peacefulness that came over her as she remembered the answer to those questions. No, absolutely not. She told me of the joy of knowing that one day her body will be able to do far more than it has ever been able to do before. I remembered in that moment that she loves to snowboard, and so I asked her, do you think there will be snowboarding in heaven? And I wish you could have seen how unhesitatingly and how confidently she responded, absolutely. And soccer too. And I wish you could have seen the smile on her face as she said it. Would you have that confidence? Why could she have that confidence? Because of the resurrection of Jesus. If the resurrection is true, then what that means for you is that if it comes to a point in your life where it seems like there is no hope, if it comes to a point in your life where it seems like even death is inevitable and there's no way to escape it, well, death is not the end. There's more. There's hope no matter what. The words of our dear friend Nabil Qureshi, who we lost last year to cancer, but who we will see again sometime soon. Jesus has promised that we will see him in a place where there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, because Jesus himself will literally, physically wipe away every tear. Jesus has promised that we will live together in his Father's house, a house that has many rooms. When Nabil and I lived in Oxford together, he lived in my same apartment building, 2 floors down. And as I was preparing this talk, I found myself wondering and smiling at the thought that maybe someday soon, Nabil will again live just 2 floors below. That is how real and concrete and tangible the hope of Jesus is. Origin, meaning, morality, destiny. Where did we come from? Where are we headed? What is the purpose of life? How should we live? Do we have answers? Or are we pretending our way through life? Are we from nothing, by nothing, and for nothing? Or are we from someone, by someone, and for someone? Is the center of reality impersonal, or is it personal? Is it random, or is it relational? Christianity offers answers to the deepest questions of life. One last critical question. Can we trust the one who is giving the answers? When I was about 6 years old, I was playing football on my next-door neighbor's front lawn, and I was getting knocked around pretty good. I started crying. I came running home to my mom, who was out on the front porch. There's my mom on the front porch she was on. She's sporting the classic 80s onesie there. And I came running up to my mom, and I'm crying, and I'm saying, I'm not tough enough. I'm not tough enough. So guess what my mom did? My mom did what any loving mother of a 6-year-old son would do. She positioned herself like this. She got down in quite an athletic stance. She looked at me lovingly. She hung her nose out in the air. And then she said, "Punch me in the nose. You are tough enough. Punch me in the nose." And I know what you're thinking. Crazy Italians. Guess this was the start of my boxing career. And indeed, she was crazy, but she persisted. She said, "Punch me in the nose, punch me in the nose." And I don't know what sort of psychological state I must have been in, but finally I did. I reared back and I gave my mom a straight right hand to the nose, and to my astonishment and to hers, blood actually began to come out of my mom's nose and down her face. You're learning a lot about my family. Then came one of the most gorgeous images I have ever seen. Through the blood came the most dazzling, radiant, joyful smile. And my mom said, "Now get back out there." And my mom sent me back out into that game, and she went inside to get cleaned up. You might not know what to make of that story. Understandably so. What a bizarre thing for my mom to do. What an unthinkable, messy, bloody thing to do. But also, what an extravagant display of love. My mom chose to bring me into this world. And she knew there would be challenges. She knew there would be confusion. She knew there would be suffering. But she was trustworthy. She was someone I trusted above all. Why? Because when the challenges came and my eyes filled with tears, she bent down and she stepped into my suffering with me, even though that meant suffering at the hands of her own child. And that is a picture of Jesus on the cross, where God did something unthinkable and messy and bloody, where God stepped down into our chaos and into our brokenness and into our confusion, even though that meant suffering at the hands of those he had created. We all need answers to the most fundamental questions of life, and we need them from someone we can trust. The person who can be trusted most is the person who is willing to suffer with you, the person who is willing to shed blood for you, the person who is willing to give their life for you. Only one God has given his life for you. Only one God came and sat down beside you. And when he had to choose to save his life or yours, he chose you. That is a God that we can trust. And that is the God that is my privilege to commend to you this evening.
You've been watching Let My People Think with Ravi Zacharias. We're grateful for your prayers and financial support. If you'd like to know more about this ministry or would like to donate to our efforts, you can call us at 1-800-448-6766 or visit us online at www.rzim.org. You can also stay connected to RZIM through Twitter and Facebook. Our mailing address is RZIM, Post Office Box 1820, Roswell, Georgia 30077.
The mission of Ravi Zacharias International Ministries is really to reach the thinker and the skeptic, to answer the questions, and do evangelism undergirded by apologetics, in clearing all of the obstacles that stand in the way so that the questioner can take a direct look at the cross of Jesus Christ. We put it simply, it is to help the thinker to believe and the believer to think. The fivefold thrust of RZIM has always been first and foremost evangelism. We do evangelism undergirded by apologetics. We are involved in training people where they are and within the church, and training our young to be able to answer the questions that are being asked of them, and then spiritual disciplines, because we never want to forget the heart that has to be touched and reached. So we've got evangelism, apologetics, training, and spiritual disciplines. But there is a fifth very important component. Wellspring International is the humanitarian arm of RZIM, which is apologetics with a touch. These five components of evangelism, apologetics, training, spiritual disciplines, and the humanitarian need. These are the issues that really carry us into various settings.
RZIM Academy is RZIM's online learning platform. And the brilliant thing about it is that the Academy allows people to learn from our amazing team of global speakers in the parameters of their own lives and jobs and families and responsibilities. The focus of the Academy is very practical. It comes down to having one conversation at a time, learning to ask good questions, learning to really listen to the people around us as we have conversations in our own life. It brings together people from all around the world. Students have the opportunity to learn from fellow Christians from different countries and different backgrounds and different cultures as they all come together around the content in a learning community that really encourages good conversation. For more information and to register for the next course, go to rzimacademy.org.
Let My People Think is a listener-supported television ministry and is furnished by Ravi Zacharias International Ministries, Atlanta, Georgia.